Victory is not found in the heat of battle, but in the stillness of the mind before the first blow is struck. Sun Tzu, the greatest strategist in history, knew that a restless spirit is a defeated one. But tonight, we are not preparing for conflict. We are using his ancient wisdom to win the only battle that matters right now, the one against your own thoughts. Imagine a fog rolling over a silent valley at dawn, where every worry dissolves into strategy, and every strategy dissolves into peace. We will explore 100 lessons from the art of war, narrated to lead you into a deep, strategic slumber. It is time to lay down your armor. The war is over for today. It is time to rest. This ancient Chinese text, composed of just 13 chapters, has shaped military strategy, business leadership, competitive sports, and personal development across countless generations. From ancient battlefields to modern boardrooms, from military academies to Silicon Valley startups, the principles contained within this slender volume continue to guide those who seek not just to compete, but to prevail with wisdom and efficiency. Tonight, we'll explore 100 lessons drawn from this profound work, not as separate fragments, but as parts of an interconnected philosophy, a way of thinking that values intelligence over brute force, preparation over improvisation, and victory without needless conflict. Some of what you hear may challenge conventional thinking. Some may seem paradoxical, but woven together, these lessons form a complete understanding of strategy that transcends warfare itself. And before we begin our journey through these 100 lessons, if these calm explorations of timeless wisdom help you unwind or give you a thoughtful way to end your day, consider subscribing to Whispered Knowledge. It helps others find their way here, one curious mind at a time. Now, let's begin with the man himself. Who was Sun Tzu? Sun Tzu remains one of history's most enigmatic figures, a man whose very existence is debated by scholars, even as his influence remains undeniable. The name itself, Sun Tzu, is not actually a personal name, but an honorific title meaning Master Sun. Traditional accounts give his birth name as Sun Wu. The honorific Tzu, or Zi, was commonly appended to the names of respected teachers and philosophers in ancient China, placing Sun Tzu in the company of other legendary figures like Lao Tzu and Confucius, both of whom lived during the same tumultuous period. Traditional sources place him during what historians call the spring and autumn period of ancient China, with dates sometimes given as around 544 to 496 BCE, though modern scholars question whether these dates are reliable or whether Sun Tzu was even a single historical person. What we can say with more confidence is that the art of war, the text attributed to him, appears to have been composed sometime during the late spring and autumn period, or early warring states period, roughly between the 6th and 5th centuries BCE. This would make it roughly contemporary with the time of Buddha in India and the early Greek philosophers who were exploring questions of ethics and knowledge in the Mediterranean world. This was a time of profound upheaval in Chinese civilization. The once powerful Zhou dynasty, which had ruled for centuries with the mandate of heaven, had fragmented into competing states, each vying for supremacy over what had once been a unified empire. The royal house still existed in name, but its actual power had evaporated, leaving a patchwork of independent kingdoms that paid lip service to the Zhou emperor while pursuing their own ambitions. Warfare was constant, but it was evolving from ritualized conflicts between chariot-riding aristocrats into something far more complex and devastating. The old ways of war, when noble warriors fought according to strict codes of honor and chivalry, were giving way to more pragmatic and ruthless approaches. Iron weapons were replacing bronze, making warfare more deadly, and more accessible to common soldiers who couldn't afford the expensive bronze equipment of earlier eras. Armies were growing larger, swelling from hundreds to thousands and even tens of thousands of men. Professional soldiers were replacing aristocratic warriors. The old rules of combat, where battles were almost ceremonial affairs scheduled in advance between consenting aristocrats, were giving way to surprise attacks, night raids, deception, and the systematic application of violence to achieve political ends. Into this turbulent world, according to later historical accounts, stepped a military strategist named Sun Wu, said to have come from the northern state of Qi and traveled south to the kingdom of Wu. Our primary source for Sun Tzu's biography is the records of the Grand Historian, written by Sima Qian around 100 BCE, several centuries after Sun Tzu supposedly lived. This significant time gap means we must approach these accounts with some caution, understanding that legend and history may have become intertwined over the centuries. According to Sima Qian's account, Sun Tzu served King Helu of Wu and helped transform that kingdom into a major military power. The most famous story about Sun Tzu comes from Sima Qian's records and has been questioned by scholars since at least the 11th century, though its historical accuracy matters less than the principles it illustrates. This tale has been repeated countless times throughout history, appearing in military texts, leadership manuals, and philosophical discourses, precisely because it demonstrates fundamental principles about discipline, leadership, and the relationship between clarity and authority, regardless of whether the events literally occurred. According to this account, King Helu wanted to test Sun Tzu's methods before entrusting him with command of the kingdom's armies and the lives of thousands of soldiers. The king presented Sun Tzu with what seemed an impossible challenge: turn 180 of his palace concubines into soldiers who could maneuver with military precision. The story goes that these were women accustomed to lives of leisure and comfort who had never held weapons or marched in formation. The test was designed to be humiliating. If Sun Tzu failed, he would be revealed as a fraud. If he succeeded through harsh treatment of the king's favorites, he would make himself unpopular. Sun Tzu accepted the challenge without hesitation. He divided the women into two companies, carefully explaining that like any military unit, they needed structure and hierarchy. He placed the king's two most beloved concubines in command of each group, elevating them to positions of leadership and responsibility. Then, he began his instruction, explaining clearly and methodically what commands he would give and what responses he expected. He demonstrated the movements himself. He ensured that every woman understood what turn right meant, what turn left meant, what advance and halt signified. The instructions were crystal clear, repeated multiple times, demonstrated physically. When he gave his first actual command to turn right, the women laughed. They treated the entire exercise as entertainment, as another court amusement. These were women whose entire lives had been spent in the carefully regulated world of the royal household, where the most pressing concerns involved poetry, music, and pleasing the king. The idea of military drill seemed absurd to them, a game rather than serious training. Sun Tzu stopped. He didn't raise his voice in anger. He didn't berate the women for their disrespect. Instead, he calmly explained a fundamental principle of leadership and responsibility. When instructions are not clear, when subordinates do not understand what is expected of them, the responsibility lies entirely with the commander. A good leader ensures that commands are understood before expecting them to be executed. If people fail because they don't understand, the leader has failed, not the followers. He then repeated his commands even more clearly and methodically. He demonstrated again. He made absolutely certain that there could be no confusion about what he was asking. The movements were simple. The expectations were crystal clear. Then he gave the command again. Again, the women laughed. This time they weren't confused. They understood perfectly well what was being asked. They simply chose not to comply, treating this strange man and his military posturing as beneath their dignity or too ridiculous to take seriously. Now, Sun Tzu's demeanor changed. He announced calmly that when commands are perfectly clear but not followed, when subordinates understand exactly what is required yet choose not to comply, the fault lies not with the commander but with the officers, with those who should be enforcing discipline and setting the example for the ranks. In a military organization, such failure by officers cannot be tolerated because it undermines the entire structure of command and makes coordinated action impossible. In Sima Qian's telling, despite the king's frantic protests and pleas for mercy toward his favorites, Sun Tzu ordered the immediate execution of the two women who had served as company commanders. He explained to the horrified monarch that once a general receives command, certain military decisions must remain within the commander's authority if victory is to be achieved. The executions were carried out, new commanders were appointed, and the remaining women then moved with perfect discipline and precision. Whether this dramatic story represents historical fact or is a later invention designed to illustrate principles of leadership and discipline, it captures something essential about the philosophy attributed to Sun Tzu. The account emphasizes that effective leadership requires clear communication, consistent consequences, and the willingness to make difficult decisions even when politically uncomfortable. King Helu, in this traditional account, recognized what he had witnessed and appointed Sun Tzu as general of his armies. Historical records indicate that Wu did achieve remarkable military success during this period, most notably defeating the much larger state of Chu in 506 BCE and even capturing Chu's capital. Whether Sun Tzu was personally responsible for these victories, as later tradition claims, or whether his role has been embellished over time, remains a matter of scholarly debate. What seems clear is that Wu did become a major power during this era, and that the art of war reflects the military thinking that characterized this transformative period in Chinese warfare. The concubine story, whether factual or legendary, has endured because it effectively illustrates principles that appear throughout the art of war: the importance of clear communication, the necessity of consistent discipline, the value of making difficult decisions, and the understanding that true authority emerges from establishing clear expectations and maintaining unwavering consistency in their enforcement. What we know with greater certainty is that a military treatise attributed to Sun Tzu has survived through the millennia. The Art of War, composed of 13 chapters, each focusing on different aspects of warfare and strategy, represents a synthesis of military wisdom from ancient China. Whether it was written by a single author named Sun Wu or represents a compilation of military thinking from this period remains debated. But the text itself has proven remarkably influential, regardless of its precise authorship. The text survived through centuries of Chinese history, copied by hand, studied by generals, and refined by commentators who added their own interpretations. The earliest physical evidence we have consists of bamboo slip manuscripts discovered in a tomb in 1972, dating to around 140 to 118 BCE. By the 3rd century of the Common Era, the famous general and warlord Cao Cao had edited the text and written commentary that helped establish the version most familiar to us today. But Sun Tzu's influence extends far beyond ancient China, far beyond the military sphere, and far beyond the historical era in which he lived. His work was among the first Chinese texts translated into European languages, reaching France in 1772 through the efforts of a Jesuit missionary named Jean-Joseph Marie Amiot. This translation introduced European military thinkers to a radically different approach to warfare than what had developed in the West. Where European military theory tended to focus on battlefield tactics, logistics, and the mechanics of warfare, Sun Tzu offered a more comprehensive and psychologically sophisticated approach that considered warfare as just one aspect of a broader strategic competition between states. Military leaders throughout history have studied his principles and applied them to their campaigns. Mao Zedong, the founder of the People's Republic of China, drew heavily from Sun Tzu in developing the guerrilla warfare strategies that eventually brought the Communist Party to power. Mao's famous dictum that guerrilla fighters should move among the people like fish swim in the sea reflects Sun Tzu's emphasis on understanding terrain and using it to advantage. His concept of protracted war, wearing down a stronger opponent through patience and strategic withdrawals, rather than seeking decisive battles, comes directly from Sun Tzu's teaching about avoiding what is strong and attacking what is weak. Vietnamese General Vo Nguyen Giap studied the art of war extensively and applied its principles during the Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954, and later throughout the Vietnam War against American forces. Giap's patient strategy of accepting heavy losses while systematically degrading enemy will to continue fighting, his use of unexpected approaches through difficult terrain, his emphasis on intelligence gathering and understanding enemy psychology all reflect deep engagement with Sun Tzu's teachings. Some Vietnamese commanders reportedly could recite entire passages of the art of war from memory, so thoroughly had they internalized its wisdom. Even American military leaders, despite coming from a very different military tradition, have acknowledged the work's value. The Art of War appears on the United States Marine Corps Professional Reading Program and is taught at the United States Military Academy at West Point. It's listed as recommended reading for military intelligence personnel. The work offers perspectives that complement Western military thinking, particularly its emphasis on winning through intelligence and positioning rather than through superior violence alone, and its recognition that warfare ultimately involves psychology and will as much as material factors. What makes the art of war so enduring is its focus on principles rather than specific tactics tied to the military technology of its era. While the text does contain some references to chariots, crossbows, and other equipment of ancient Chinese warfare, its core insights transcend these historical details. Sun Tzu understood that warfare, like all human endeavors, is fundamentally about psychology, information management, resource allocation, and adaptation to circumstances. The best generals, according to the text, win not through superior violence, but through superior intelligence and positioning. They create conditions where victory becomes inevitable, or where opponents recognize the futility of resistance and surrender without fighting. This emphasis on efficiency, this economy of force, this preference for achieving objectives through wisdom rather than through bloodshed and destruction resonates across cultures and centuries. The text is structured around 13 chapters, each addressing different aspects of strategy and warfare. The first chapter, Laying Plans, establishes fundamental principles about calculation and assessment before engaging in conflict. Subsequent chapters address topics like waging war economically, attacking enemy strategy rather than forces, tactical dispositions, the use of energy and momentum, identifying and exploiting weak points, maneuvering forces, adapting to different situations, understanding terrain, recognizing 9 varieties of ground, using fire attacks, and employing spies and intelligence. Together, These chapters form a comprehensive philosophy of strategic competition. In modern times, the art of war has found new audiences far from battlefields. Business leaders study it for insights into competitive strategy. Athletes and coaches examine it for mental approaches to competition. Negotiators find applicable principles in its teachings about information and psychology. The text has become a cultural touchstone, referenced in movies, books, and popular culture worldwide, though sometimes these popular references simplify or distort its actual teachings. Some scholars have questioned whether Sun Tzu was a real historical figure. Beginning around the 12th century, Chinese scholars noted that the Zhuojuan, an important historical chronicle that mentions most notable figures from the spring and autumn period, makes no mention of Sun Tzu at all. The name Sun Wu doesn't appear in any text that predates Sima Qian's records of the grand historian by several centuries. Some historians have suggested the work might be a compilation by multiple authors, or that the figure of Sun Tzu represents a merging of several historical strategists whose stories became conflated over time. Yet, whether Sun Tzu was one person, several people, or represents a school of military thought that was later personified, the work attributed to him stands as a remarkable achievement in strategic thinking. The text distills essential principles of strategy and conflict into teachings that have remained relevant for more than 2 millennia. Tonight, we'll explore 100 of these lessons, drawn from the 13 chapters of The Art of War and the wisdom they contain. So, settle in, get comfortable, and prepare to think differently about conflict, competition, and the many ways we navigate challenges in our lives. Foundational Principles, Lessons 1 through 12. Lesson 1. Know yourself, know your enemy, and you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This is perhaps the most famous principle from The Art of War, and with good reason. It encapsulates the entire foundation of strategic thinking. Sun Tzu tells us that if you know both yourself and your adversary, victory is not in doubt. If you know yourself but not your enemy, for every victory you will suffer a defeat. But if you know neither yourself nor your enemy, you will fail in every battle. This principle extends far beyond military conflict. In business, it means understanding your company's capabilities and limitations, while also understanding your competitors' strategies and weaknesses. In personal development, it means honest self-assessment combined with awareness of the challenges you face. The wisdom lies in the balance. Knowing only yourself breeds arrogance. Knowing only your opponent breeds anxiety. Knowing both brings clarity. Lesson 2. All warfare is based on deception. Here Sun Tzu reveals a truth that many find uncomfortable. Strategy inherently involves misdirection. When you are strong, appear weak. When you are near, appear far. When you are ready to attack, appear unprepared. When you are unable to strike, feign capability. This isn't about dishonesty in the moral sense. It's about understanding that in competitive situations, revealing your true intentions and capabilities gives your opponent information they can use against you. Deception creates uncertainty in your adversary's mind, forcing them to make decisions based on incomplete or misleading information. In a business negotiation, this might mean not revealing your actual bottom line. In athletic competition, it might mean disguising your true strategy until the critical moment. Lesson 3. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Sun Tzu repeatedly emphasizes that the highest form of strategy achieves objectives without actual combat. Winning through battle is second-rate. Winning through siege is third-rate. The true master creates conditions where the opponent recognizes that resistance is futile and yields without violence. This principle values efficiency and long-term thinking over short-term displays of force. Every battle, even if won, consumes resources and creates lasting damage. The strategist, who can achieve objectives through positioning, through making the cost of resistance obvious, through creating no-win scenarios for the opponent. This is the truly skilled practitioner of strategy. In modern contexts, this means resolving conflicts through negotiation, making competitive positions so strong that rivals choose cooperation over confrontation, or solving problems through innovation rather than direct competition. Lesson 4. In war, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. Prolonged warfare exhausts resources, dulls weapons, dampens morale, and drains treasuries. Sun Tzu warns that no country has ever benefited from prolonged war. Speed and decisiveness matter because every day of conflict imposes costs. The longer a confrontation lasts, the more opportunities arise for things to go wrong, for allies to waver, for enemies to gather strength. This lesson applies whenever we face challenges. In business, prolonged price wars destroy profitability for all participants. In personal conflicts, drawn-out disputes damage relationships and waste emotional energy. The principle isn't about rushing foolishly into action, but about being decisive once you've prepared properly. Plan thoroughly, then execute swiftly. Lesson 5. Press advantages when they arise. Sun Tzu's teachings emphasize that strategic advantage tends to compound. When you seize an opportunity successfully, it often creates new opportunities. Momentum builds. Resources captured can be used immediately. Territory taken provides new positions for further advances. The enemy, once put on the defensive, becomes reactive rather than proactive. We see this in business when successful products generate cash that funds development of more products. We see it in personal development when one achievement builds confidence that enables further achievements. The lesson is to recognize when you've gained an advantage and to press it intelligently, not to rest on initial success. Lesson 6. Strategy must guide tactics. Sun Tzu emphasizes throughout The Art of War that tactical skill without strategic direction leads to failure. A famous interpretation of his teaching suggests that the tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. Whether these exact words appear in the original or represent a later distillation of his ideas, the principle is clear. You can be excellent at executing specific tasks, brilliant at solving immediate problems, highly skilled in particular techniques, yet still be headed toward ultimate failure if those tactics don't serve a coherent strategy. Strategy asks where you're going and why. Tactics ask how you'll get there. Strategy is choosing which mountain to climb. Tactics is how you climb it. Without strategy, even the most impressive tactical victories can lead nowhere meaningful. In modern life, this might look like someone who works incredibly hard but on the wrong priorities, or a business that executes brilliantly but in a dying market. Lesson 7. He who knows when to fight and when not to fight will be victorious. Not every challenge deserves engagement. Not every opportunity is worth pursuing. Not every provocation requires response. Wisdom lies in discrimination, in choosing which battles actually matter. Some conflicts are unwinnable. Some victories would cost more than they're worth. Some confrontations are distractions from more important objectives. This lesson teaches strategic patience and selectivity. In business, it might mean letting small market share losses go while focusing on more valuable segments. In personal life, it might mean choosing not to engage in every argument, every competition, every chance to prove yourself. Energy and resources are finite. The wise strategist conserves them for battles that truly matter. Lesson 8. Victorious warriors win first, and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first, and then seek to win. This profound principle reveals how Sun Tzu thought about strategy. The skilled strategist creates the conditions for victory before any fighting begins. Through preparation, positioning, intelligence gathering, alliance building, and resource accumulation, they construct a scenario where the outcome is virtually predetermined. Only then do they engage. The unskilled rush into conflict, hoping to achieve victory through effort and courage in the moment. They fight and hope to win. The skilled make victory inevitable before fighting begins. In business, this looks like entering a market only after thorough preparation, with superior products, distribution, and financing already in place. In personal challenges, it means preparing so thoroughly that success becomes the natural outcome of your preparation. Lesson 9. Strategic patience can be more effective than direct action. A saying often attributed to Sun Tzu suggests that if you wait by the river long enough, the bodies of your enemies will float by. Whether or not this exact phrasing appears in the original text, it captures an important principle found throughout the art of war. Sometimes the best strategy is watchful waiting. Your enemies may destroy themselves through their own mistakes, their own conflicts, their own overextension. Not every threat requires active opposition. Sometimes circumstances themselves will eliminate obstacles. This doesn't mean passivity. It means understanding when to act and when to let events unfold. It means positioning yourself to benefit from your opponent's errors rather than rushing to prevent them. In business, this might mean letting competitors exhaust themselves in a price war while you focus on building long-term value. In life, it might mean recognizing that some problems solve themselves if given time. Lesson 10. Engage people with what they expect. It is what they are able to discern and confirms their projections. It settles them into predictable patterns of response, occupying their minds while you wait for the extraordinary moment. Here, Sun Tzu introduces a sophisticated principle of psychological manipulation. By giving opponents what they expect, you lull them into false confidence. They think they understand you. They think they can predict your actions. Their mental models of the situation solidify around these expectations. And then, when they're settled into their patterns, when they're confident in their understanding, you introduce something unexpected that their entire preparation hasn't accounted for. This works because humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We see what we expect to see. We prepare for what we've experienced before. The strategist who understands this can use expectations as a weapon, shaping how opponents perceive the situation until the critical moment arrives. Lesson 11. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. Sun Tzu repeatedly uses water as a metaphor for strategic flexibility. Water has no constant form. It adapts to whatever container holds it, whatever terrain channels it, whatever obstacles block it. Yet this adaptability doesn't make it weak. Water can wear away stone, carve through mountains, and overwhelm anything in its path during floods. The lesson is that effective strategy must be adaptive. There is no single formula for success that works in all situations. The strategist must respond to actual conditions, not theoretical ideals. What works against one opponent may fail against another. What succeeds in one environment may be disastrous in another. Like water, find the path of least resistance while moving always toward your objective. Lesson 12. Disorder came from order. Fear came from courage. weakness came from strength. This paradoxical statement reveals deep understanding of how things transform into their opposites. Order, if maintained too rigidly, becomes brittle and eventually shatters into disorder. Courage, if lacking wisdom, leads soldiers into situations that rightly inspire fear. Strength, if wielded without intelligence, exhausts itself and becomes weakness. The lesson warns against simple oppositions: order and disorder, courage and fear, strength and weakness are not separate states, but exist on continuums where one can transform into the other. The skilled strategist understands these transformations and uses them. They create the appearance of disorder while maintaining underlying order. They inspire courage while acknowledging real dangers. They preserve strength by knowing when not to use it. Leadership and Command, Lessons 13 through 24. Lesson 13. Regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look upon them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand by you even unto death. Sun Tzu understood that effective leadership requires genuine care for those you lead. This isn't manipulation or technique, it's authentic concern for the welfare of your people. When soldiers know their commander truly cares about their lives, values them as individuals, and won't waste them needlessly, they respond with loyalty and courage. But Sun Tzu immediately adds a warning. If you treat them like beloved children but cannot command them, if you love them but cannot discipline them, if you care for them but cannot establish order, they become like spoiled children, useless for your purposes. Care must be balanced with authority. Compassion must be tempered with discipline. In modern leadership, this principle remains vital. Employees who feel genuinely valued by their leaders give discretionary effort. Teams who trust their leaders' judgment follow into uncertain situations. But this trust must be earned through demonstrated competence and consistency, not just through being liked. Lesson 14. Commanders must embody the qualities they demand. Sun Tzu's text emphasizes that the commander must embody the qualities demanded of the troops. If you expect discipline, be disciplined. If you demand courage, show courage. If you require endurance, demonstrate endurance. Troops watch their leaders carefully, and actions speak far louder than commands. This principle extends to all forms of leadership. Parents who model the behavior they want from children are far more effective than those who simply issue commands. Managers who demonstrate work ethic inspire greater effort than those who merely demand it. Leaders who take risks alongside their teams earn deeper loyalty than those who send others into danger while remaining safe. Lesson 15. When the general is weak and without authority, when his orders are not clear and distinct, when there are no fixed duties assigned to officers and men, and the ranks are formed in a slovenly, haphazard manner, the result is utter disorganization. Here Sun Tzu identifies the sources of organizational chaos. Weak leadership creates power vacuums that breed conflict. Unclear orders generate confusion and wasted effort. Undefined responsibilities lead to either duplication of work or critical tasks falling through gaps. Lack of structure prevents coordination. The remedy is clarity, consistency, and competence. Leaders must establish clear chains of command, communicate expectations precisely, assign specific responsibilities, and maintain disciplined systems. This isn't about micromanagement or rigidity. It's about creating frameworks within which people can operate effectively. Lesson 16. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. Strategy requires thought, not just action. Sun Tzu warns against impulsive decisions made without adequate consideration. Before moving troops, before committing resources, before launching initiatives, The wise leader carefully considers options, anticipated outcomes, potential complications, and alternative approaches. This principle conflicts with modern culture's emphasis on rapid action and quick decisions. But Sun Tzu distinguishes between the planning phase, which should be deliberate and thorough, and the execution phase, which should be swift and decisive. Think slowly and carefully, then act quickly and boldly. Lesson 17. Disruption creates opportunities for the prepared. A principle often associated with Sun Tzu's thinking is that in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. While this exact phrasing may be a later interpretation, the concept appears throughout the art of war. Every crisis contains within it possibilities for gain. When systems break down, when old patterns shatter, when chaos erupts, the alert strategist sees opportunities that didn't exist in the previous stable state. Competitors become vulnerable, new approaches become possible, resources become available. This doesn't mean creating chaos for its own sake, but it does mean recognizing that disruption affects different parties differently. Those prepared for chaos can exploit it. Those caught unprepared are destroyed by it. The lesson is to anticipate disruptions, prepare for instability, and position yourself to benefit when it arrives. Lesson 18. A clever general must be master of 9 stratagems and variations. Sun Tzu lists several strategic approaches that the competent commander must understand and apply appropriately. Know when to advance and when to retreat. Know when to fight and when to avoid battle. Know when to divide forces and when to concentrate them. Know when to feign weakness and when to display strength. Know when to move quickly and when to move slowly. The principle isn't about memorizing specific tactics, but about developing strategic flexibility. Different situations demand different approaches. The rigid commander who applies the same strategy to every circumstance will eventually encounter a situation where that strategy fails catastrophically. The adaptive commander who masters multiple approaches can select the right tool for each situation. Lesson 19. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. This counterintuitive principle reveals deep psychological insight. When an enemy is completely surrounded with no hope of escape, they fight with the desperation of those who have nothing to lose. This desperate fighting can be ferocious and costly, even if you ultimately win. By leaving an apparent escape route, you give the enemy hope. Troops with hope preserve their lives and flee, rather than fighting to the death. The lesson applies beyond literal military encirclement. In any confrontation, leaving your opponent a face-saving way out often leads to resolution without prolonged conflict. In negotiations, offering an acceptable alternative prevents the other party from being backed into a corner where their only option is to fight. Desperate people are unpredictable and dangerous. People with options are more reasonable. Lesson 20. Treat your men as you would your own beloved sons, and they will follow you even into the deepest valleys. This lesson emphasizes authentic care as the foundation of loyalty. Soldiers who believe their commander values their lives, considers their welfare, and won't squander them needlessly develop profound loyalty. This isn't about being soft or indulgent. It's about demonstrating that you view those under your command as ends in themselves, not merely as means to your objectives. The modern application is clear in any leadership context. Employees who feel their leaders genuinely care about their development and well-being become emotionally invested in the organization's success. Team members who trust that their leader has their best interests at heart give discretionary effort and remain committed during difficulties. Lesson 21. Make your way by unexpected routes and attack unguarded spots. Predictability is dangerous. If enemies can anticipate your movements, they can prepare defenses, set traps, or position forces to counter you. Sun Tzu advocates for approaching objectives through unexpected avenues, striking at points the enemy hasn't reinforced, and avoiding prepared defenses. This principle rewards creativity and unconventional thinking. In business, it might mean entering markets through unusual channels, or competing on dimensions rivals haven't prioritized. In personal challenges, it might mean solving problems through novel approaches rather than the obvious solutions everyone attempts. Lesson 22. If quick, I survive. If not quick, I am lost. This is death. Speed confers advantage. The ability to move faster than opponents, to make decisions more quickly, to implement solutions before problems worsen, to seize opportunities before they vanish. This separates success from failure in many contexts. Slowness allows enemies to prepare, opportunities to evaporate, and situations to deteriorate. But Sun Tzu isn't advocating recklessness. The speed he recommends comes after thorough preparation. Once you've planned, gathered intelligence, positioned forces, and created favorable conditions, then you must strike swiftly before those advantages erode. Hesitation wastes preparation. Delay squanders opportunity. Lesson 23. He who can modify his tactics in relation to his opponent and thereby succeed in winning may be called a heaven-born captain. Here, Sun Tzu identifies the highest level of strategic skill. It's not enough to be tactically proficient in one approach. It's not sufficient to execute a predetermined plan flawlessly. The truly brilliant strategist adapts tactics to the specific opponent being faced, the particular circumstances of the moment, and the unique characteristics of the situation. This adaptive mastery comes from deep understanding of principles, rather than memorization of specific techniques. Like a martial artist who responds fluidly to an opponent's movements, the master strategist reads the unfolding situation and adjusts constantly, never locked into a rigid plan. Lesson 24. When the common soldiers are too strong and their officers too weak, the result is insubordination. When the officers are too strong and the common soldiers too weak, the result is collapse. This principle addresses organizational balance. If lower-level personnel are highly capable, but leadership is weak, chaos ensues. People don't follow direction, coordinate poorly, and work at cross purposes, despite their individual competence. Conversely, if leadership is strong, but the rank and file are weak, the organization can't execute even brilliant strategies. The lesson points to the need for balanced capability throughout the organization. Strong leaders need capable teams. Capable teams need strong leaders. Building one without the other creates vulnerability. Modern organizations must develop talent at all levels, not just at the top or just in specialist roles. Strategy and planning. Lessons 25 through 36. Lesson 25. This to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Sun Tzu returns repeatedly to this theme because it's central to his philosophy. Military victory through battle is costly even when successful. Troops are lost, equipment is destroyed, resources are consumed, territory may be devastated, even the victor emerges weakened. The truly skilled strategist achieves objectives through positioning, through creating no-win scenarios for opponents, through making the cost of resistance obviously greater than the cost of surrender. In business, this might look like developing such a superior product that competitors abandon the market rather than trying to compete. In negotiations, it might mean constructing offers where acceptance is clearly the rational choice. In personal conflicts, It might mean demonstrating such thorough preparation that opposition becomes pointless. Lesson 26. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. Success often breeds repetition. What worked before becomes the default approach. But circumstances change, opponents learn, and yesterday's winning formula becomes today's predictable pattern. Sun Tzu warns against falling in love with past successes. Each new situation demands fresh analysis and potentially different approaches. This principle rewards continuous learning and adaptation. The most dangerous time for any organization is immediately after a major success, when there's temptation to simply repeat whatever produced that success. Markets evolve, competitors adjust, customer preferences shift. Only those who continuously adapt survive long-term. Lesson 27. Invincibility lies in the defense, the possibility of victory in the attack. Here, Sun Tzu makes a fundamental distinction. You can make yourself invincible through proper defense, positioning yourself so that no attack can succeed against you. But invincibility alone doesn't create victory. To win, you must attack, which necessarily involves some risk. The principle is about balancing security with opportunity. First, establish a strong defensive position. Secure your supply lines, protect your vulnerabilities, build reserves, create redundancy. Only when you're secure should you take the risks necessary to achieve victory. Many fail by attacking before their defense is solid. Some fail by defending so thoroughly they never risk attacking. Lesson 28. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. This complements the previous lesson. Defense can prevent loss, but rarely creates gain. Offense creates the possibility of victory, but exposes you to defeat. The skilled strategist knows when to defend and when to attack. They defend when weak, when unprepared, when the enemy is strong, or when the objective doesn't justify the risk. They attack when strong, when prepared, when the enemy is vulnerable, or when the objective is critical. In business, defensive strategies might include cost control, quality improvement, and customer retention. Offensive strategies might include market expansion, product innovation, and competitive attacks. Both have their place. Lesson 29. Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted. Arriving first confers multiple advantages. You choose the ground. You prepare positions. You rest while the enemy travels. You dictate when battle occurs. Arriving second means fighting on terrain the enemy has chosen, in positions they've prepared, at a time they've selected, while you're tired from hurrying. The principle extends beyond literal battlefields. In business, being first to market can establish standards and build customer loyalty before competitors arrive. In negotiations, setting the initial agenda shapes the discussion. In projects, starting early allows for careful work, while starting late requires rushing. Haste is rarely optimal. Lesson 30. Carefully study the well-being of your men and do not overtax them. Concentrate your energy and hoard your strength. Effective leaders understand that people are not inexhaustible resources. Pushing troops too hard reduces their effectiveness. Demanding too much creates resentment and exhaustion. The wise commander manages energy and morale carefully, knowing that there will be times when maximum effort is essential. You can't maintain maximum effort indefinitely. This principle applies to all sustained endeavors. Marathon runners pace themselves. Successful entrepreneurs balance intensity with recovery. Effective students alternate focused work with rest. The goal is sustainable high performance, not brief bursts of unsustainable effort that lead to burnout. Lesson 31. Keep your army continually on the move and devise unfathomable plans. Mobility and unpredictability keep enemies off balance. If you're stationary, enemies know where to find you and can plan accordingly. If you're predictable, enemies can anticipate and counter your moves. By staying in motion and keeping plans mysterious, you force enemies to prepare for multiple contingencies, spreading their forces thin and keeping them uncertain. Modern applications include not becoming too attached to any single location or approach, continuously innovating, and avoiding patterns that competitors can exploit. Unpredictability isn't random chaos. It's deliberately keeping opponents guessing while you maintain clarity of purpose. Lesson 32. Thus, the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans. The next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces. The next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field. And the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. Sun Tzu outlines a hierarchy of strategic approaches. The best strategy disrupts enemy plans before they form. If you can't prevent their plans, stop them from concentrating forces. If you can't prevent concentration, fight them in the field where you have mobility. The worst approach is attacking fortified positions where defenders have every advantage. This teaches us to intervene at the earliest, most advantageous point. In business, this might mean disrupting competitor strategies through innovation, rather than competing directly against established products. In personal conflicts, it might mean addressing problems when they're small, rather than waiting until they've become entrenched. Lesson 33. There are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combinations of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in combination, they produce more hues than can ever be seen. Sun Tzu uses this analogy to explain strategic combinations. A small number of basic principles, when understood deeply and combined creatively, generate infinite variations. You don't need to memorize countless techniques. You need to understand fundamental principles so thoroughly that you can combine them adaptively. This is the difference between expertise and mere knowledge. Experts internalize principles until they can apply them fluidly in novel situations. Novices memorize specific solutions without understanding underlying principles. True mastery comes from grasping foundations deeply enough that creativity becomes natural. Lesson 34. Rapidity is the essence of war. Take advantage of the enemy's unreadiness. Make your way by unexpected routes and attack unguarded spots. Speed creates opportunities. When you move faster than enemies anticipate, you catch them unprepared. When you arrive before they expect, their defenses aren't ready. When you strike before they can react, their responses are confused and uncoordinated. Rapidity compounds other advantages and can even substitute for strength. But this isn't about rushing foolishly. It's about recognizing when circumstances favor swift action and then moving decisively. It's about creating tempo that keeps opponents constantly reacting rather than acting. It's about maintaining initiative through speed of decision and execution. Lesson 35. Move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical. This principle of strategic patience counters the previous emphasis on speed. Yes, act swiftly when the time is right, but don't act without good reason. Don't fight for fighting's sake. Don't move without clear advantage. Don't risk resources without proportionate potential gain. Strategic patience means waiting for opportunities rather than creating activity for its own sake. Many leaders struggle with this because inaction feels like weakness. But Sun Tzu recognizes that conserving resources for the right moment is often wiser than expending them on marginal engagements. In business, this might mean waiting for the right market conditions rather than forcing an ill-timed product launch. Lesson 36. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy and does not require too much from individuals. Individual heroism has its place, but sustained success comes from effective teamwork and good systems. Sun Tzu emphasizes creating conditions where combined forces multiply effectiveness, rather than depending on exceptional individual performance. Good strategy makes success achievable by ordinary people working together, rather than requiring superhuman effort from individuals. This principle points toward building systems, developing processes, and creating organizational capabilities that transcend any single person. Modern organizations succeed through effective coordination more than through individual brilliance. The whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts when people work in genuine collaboration. Tactical execution. Lessons 37 through 48. Lesson 37. Ground on which we can only be saved from destruction by fighting without delay is desperate ground. Sun Tzu identifies different types of terrain and the strategies appropriate to each. Desperate ground is where survival requires immediate, fierce fighting. When your back is to the wall, when there's no retreat, when delay means death, then all hesitation must vanish. Troops on desperate ground fight with everything they have because they have no alternative. Effective leaders recognize when situations are desperate and communicate this clearly. False optimism on desperate ground wastes the opportunity for the ferocious effort that such circumstances can inspire. People perform extraordinarily when they understand that everything depends on their immediate action. Lesson 38. If his forces are united, separate them. When enemies concentrate their forces, they create strength at that point. Sun Tzu advises finding ways to divide united forces. Tempt them with opportunities in different locations. Create threats they must respond to separately. Spread rumors that sow distrust among allies. Force them to defend multiple objectives simultaneously. Divided forces cannot concentrate strength at critical points. They become vulnerable to defeat in detail, where you concentrate against each separate element while others are too far away to assist. In modern competitive contexts, this might mean forcing competitors to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously, stretching their resources thin. Lesson 39. If sovereign and subject are in accord, put division between them. Effective organizations have alignment between leadership and followers. When this harmony exists, the organization acts with unity of purpose. Sun Tzu advises creating division between leaders and followers in enemy organizations. Spread dissent, reward traitors, encourage questioning of leaders, create doubts about leader competence or motives. This is psychological warfare aimed at the enemy's cohesion. In ethical modern applications, the principle suggests examining whether your own organization maintains alignment between leadership and staff, and protecting that alignment from external threats that might try to exploit or create division. Lesson 40. Attack where they are unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. Surprise multiplies force. When enemies are unprepared, their full strength cannot be brought to bear against you. Their weapons aren't ready. Their positions aren't fortified. Their forces aren't concentrated. By appearing where unexpected, you face minimal resistance and create confusion that compounds your advantages. This principle rewards innovation and unconventional thinking. The expected approaches are where defenses are strongest. Success comes from finding overlooked vulnerabilities, from approaching problems from unexpected angles, from competing on dimensions rivals haven't anticipated. Lesson 41. Make forays in fertile country in order to supply your army with provisions. Armies that live off the enemy's country move faster and maintain better supply than those dependent on long supply lines from home. This principle extends beyond literal foraging. In competitive contexts, it means using your opponent's resources against them. In business, this might mean hiring away their key employees or using their marketing to drive awareness that benefits you. The broader lesson is about resource efficiency. Don't depend entirely on resources you must transport when you can acquire resources closer to where you need them. Don't struggle to provide everything from your own base when you can utilize what's available in the field. Lesson 42. Analyze the enemy's plans so that you will know his shortcomings as well as his strong points. Intelligence gathering isn't just about knowing enemy positions and numbers. It's about understanding their strategy, their thinking, their assumptions, and their blind spots. Every plan contains both strengths and weaknesses. By thoroughly analyzing enemy plans, you discover where they're vulnerable and where you must be careful. This requires moving beyond surface observation to deeper analysis. What are they trying to achieve? What assumptions underlie their approach? Where have they concentrated resources? What have they left exposed? What must they do? And what are they hoping to do? Understanding their strategy lets you disrupt it effectively. Lesson 43. Numerical weakness comes from having to prepare against possible attacks. Numerical strength comes from compelling our adversary to make these preparations against us. This brilliant principle explains how to achieve numerical superiority even without more total forces. If you're unpredictable, enemies must prepare defenses everywhere, spreading forces thin. But if you force them to defend specific points while you maintain freedom of action, you can concentrate overwhelming force at whichever point you choose to strike. The lesson is about maintaining initiative and creating uncertainty. In business, this might mean keeping competitors guessing about which market segments you'll target next, forcing them to defend everywhere while you strike selectively. In negotiations, it means maintaining multiple options while forcing the other party to prepare for all of them. Lesson 44. What is of supreme importance in war is to attack the enemy's strategy. Defeating enemy forces is good. Defeating their strategy is better. If you can disrupt their plans, render their approach obsolete, or make their strategy counterproductive, you win without fighting or fight with massive advantages. Attacking strategy means understanding what enemies are trying to accomplish and making it impossible. In modern competition, this might mean technological innovation that makes competitor approaches irrelevant. It might mean regulatory advocacy that changes the rules. It might mean business model innovation that transforms the basis of competition. The highest level of strategy attacks, not what competitors are doing, but the foundation of why they're doing it. Lesson 45. Do not press an enemy at bay. When enemies have no escape, they fight desperately. Sun Tzu warns repeatedly against putting enemies in positions where their only option is desperate resistance. Leave them an apparent out. Give them hope. Let them think they might escape. Desperate enemies are dangerous. Hopeful enemies preserve themselves. This principle applies whenever you have someone at a disadvantage. In negotiations, leaving face-saving options prevents the other party from fighting to the bitter end. In conflict resolution, providing acceptable alternatives leads to settlement rather than prolonged struggle. people fight harder when they have everything to lose and nothing to gain from compromise. Lesson 46. If you know the enemy and know yourself, your victory will not stand in doubt. Sun Tzu returns to this foundational principle, exploring it from new angles. Knowing yourself means honest assessment of your capabilities, resources, strengths, and limitations. Knowing your enemy means understanding their position, resources, strategy, and psychology. With both forms of knowledge, you can construct strategies that exploit their weaknesses with your strengths while avoiding situations where their strengths would overwhelm your weaknesses. This is about clear-eyed realism on both sides of the equation. Overestimating yourself or underestimating your opponent leads to defeat. Underestimating yourself or overestimating your opponent leads to missed opportunities. Accurate assessment creates the foundation for effective strategy. Lesson 47. Ground which forms the key to 3 contiguous states, so that he who occupies it first has most of the empire at his command, is a ground of intersecting highways. Strategic geography matters. Some positions are far more valuable than others because they control access, communication, or trade between multiple regions. Whoever controls these critical positions gains disproportionate influence. Sun Tzu emphasizes seizing such positions early and defending them vigorously. Modern equivalents include technological platforms that connect multiple markets, regulatory positions that influence entire industries, or distribution channels that control access to customers. The principle is to identify bottlenecks, choke points, and critical junctions, then secure them before competitors recognize their value. Lesson 48. Hence, the enlightened ruler is heedful and the good general full of caution. This is the way to keep a country at peace and an army intact. Sun Tzu concludes many strategic discussions by emphasizing caution and careful consideration. This isn't timidity, it's wisdom. The enlightened leader thinks through implications, considers what could go wrong, prepares for contingencies, and doesn't act rashly. Caution preserves forces, maintains options, and prevents disasters. In modern contexts, this principle suggests the value of careful planning, risk analysis, and preparation. Act boldly when the time is right, but only after considering potential problems and preparing for them. The goal isn't to avoid all risk, but to take calculated risks with preparation for when things don't go as planned. Intelligence and information. Lessons 49 through 60. Lesson 49. Spies are a most important element in war because on them depends an army's ability to move. Sun Tzu dedicates an entire chapter to espionage, indicating its critical importance. Without intelligence about enemy positions, plans, movements, and resources, armies move blindly. They walk into traps. They miss opportunities. They waste resources preparing for threats that don't exist while leaving actual vulnerabilities exposed. Modern organizations need intelligence in many forms. Market research reveals customer needs and preferences. Competitive intelligence shows what rivals are planning. Internal metrics reveal operational problems. Social listening identifies emerging trends. Like Sun Tzu's armies, modern organizations that lack good intelligence make poor decisions based on incomplete information. Lesson 50. There are 5 types of spies: local spies, inside spies, reverse spies, dead spies, and living spies. Sun Tzu categorized intelligence sources. Local spies are people from the enemy's country. Inside spies are officials in the enemy's service. Reverse spies are enemy spies who you've turned. Dead spies spread false information that gets them killed when discovered, deceiving the enemy. Living spies return with intelligence. The principle is that information comes from many sources, each with different characteristics and uses. Modern equivalents include customer feedback, employee insights, competitor employees who leave and join your company, information you deliberately leak to mislead competitors, and formal market research. Effective intelligence combines multiple sources. Lesson 51. Be subtle, and use your spies for every kind of business. Intelligence gathering should be pervasive but invisible. Subtle observation picks up information that obvious questioning would never reveal. People guard what they say when they know they're being studied, but reveal much through casual conversation, unguarded moments, and routine behaviors. Modern applications include social media monitoring, website analytics, sales data analysis, and careful observation of market trends. The principle is to gather information continuously from multiple sources without making collection efforts so obvious that people alter their behavior in response. Lesson 52. All war is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. Sun Tzu returns to deception, but now in the context of intelligence warfare. Every signal you send to enemies provides information. By controlling these signals, by deliberately creating false impressions, you manipulate enemy understanding of the situation. This causes them to make decisions based on incorrect information, leading to mistakes you can exploit. The key is understanding that in any competitive situation, your opponents are watching you and drawing conclusions from what they observe. By controlling what they observe, you control what they conclude. This isn't about random lying. It's about deliberately shaping perceptions to support your strategy. Lesson 53. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This famous maxim takes on new meaning in the context of intelligence. Knowing the enemy requires active intelligence gathering. You must have spies, must analyze enemy movements, must understand their strategies and capabilities. Knowing yourself requires honest internal assessment. With both forms of knowledge, victory becomes predictable. The principle emphasizes that strategic uncertainty comes from incomplete information. As you gather intelligence about opponents and develop accurate self-assessment, uncertainty diminishes and clear paths to victory emerge. In business, this means combining competitive intelligence with rigorous analysis of your own capabilities to identify genuine opportunities. Lesson 54. Unhappy is the fate of one who tries to win his battles and succeed in his attacks without cultivating the spirit of enterprise. For the result is waste of time and general stagnation. Sun Tzu warns against mechanical application of intelligence. Information gathering alone isn't enough. You must also cultivate offensive spirit, willingness to take calculated risks, and determination to exploit opportunities that intelligence reveals. Information creates possibilities. Initiative converts possibilities into results. Many organizations gather extensive intelligence but fail to act on it. They have data but lack decisive leadership. They understand opportunities but hesitate to seize them. The principle warns against analysis paralysis, reminding us that intelligence serves action, not contemplation for its own sake. Lesson 55. When envoys are sent with compliments in their mouths, it is a sign that the enemy wishes for a truce. Understanding enemy signals requires reading between the lines. When enemies send conciliatory messages after aggressive actions, they're likely buying time to prepare better positions. When they offer peace from positions of apparent strength, they may be weaker than they appear. Signals often mean the opposite of their surface content. This principle teaches skepticism about opponent statements and actions. What are they trying to accomplish with this communication? What does this behavior reveal about their true position? Reading signals correctly requires understanding psychology and motivation, not just accepting surface meanings. Lesson 56. Peace proposals unaccompanied by a sworn covenant indicate a plot. When enemies make offers without binding commitments, they're probably trying to manipulate you. Real agreements come with enforceable terms. Vague promises cost nothing and mean little. Sun Tzu warns against accepting empty reassurances when verifiable commitments are possible. Modern applications include demanding concrete terms in business negotiations, requiring written contracts rather than handshake agreements when stakes are high, and being skeptical of promises that lack accountability mechanisms. The principle isn't about distrust for its own sake, but about recognizing that without enforcement mechanisms, agreements depend entirely on the other party's continued willingness to honor them. Lesson 57. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. This seems obvious, but contains deep wisdom. Many fail by attacking where defenses are strongest, where resistance is fiercest, where success is most difficult. The skilled strategist finds undefended points. These might be market segments competitors ignore, customer needs that aren't being met, or operational approaches that face no established opposition. The principle rewards careful reconnaissance and creative thinking. Instead of confronting strength directly, identify where you can advance with minimal resistance. This requires intelligence about where defenses are weak or absent, which brings us back to the importance of good information. Lesson 58. Carefully study the well-being of your men and do not overtax them. Effective use of intelligence includes understanding your own forces, monitor morale, track fatigue, notice signs of overextension. Just as you gather intelligence about enemies, gather intelligence about your own people. Their condition affects their performance and their willingness to follow your leadership. Modern leaders need metrics about employee satisfaction, burnout indicators, and engagement levels. These internal intelligence sources reveal when you're pushing too hard, when rest is needed, or when people are ready for new challenges. Leading without this information is as dangerous as fighting without intelligence about enemies. Lesson 59. If words of command are not clear and distinct, if orders are not thoroughly understood, the general is to blame. Communication failures often appear as execution problems. Troops don't follow orders, not because they're insubordinate, but because the orders weren't clear. Sun Tzu places responsibility for communication clarity on the leader. If people don't understand, you haven't communicated effectively. This principle applies broadly. Leaders must verify that their communications are understood, not just transmitted. They must check for comprehension, not just assume clarity. Many organizational failures stem from leaders who believe they've communicated clearly when they've actually created confusion. Lesson 60. Camp in high places, facing the sun. Do not climb heights in order to fight. Some of Sun Tzu's principles address specific tactical situations, but they contain broader strategic wisdom. Fighting uphill exhausts troops and gives defenders advantages. But occupying high ground before battle provides observation, easier defense, and psychological advantage. The principle distinguishes between favorable positioning, occupying heights before fighting, and unfavorable actions, attacking upward into prepared defenses. The broader lesson is about choosing advantageous positions before conflicts begin, rather than trying to overcome disadvantages through effort during conflicts. Position yourself where advantages are natural rather than fighting against inherent disadvantages. Deception and psychological warfare, Lessons 61 through 72. Lesson 61. All warfare is based on deception. Sun Tzu emphasizes this principle repeatedly because it's so fundamental. Every action you take sends signals to opponents. By controlling these signals, you shape their understanding and influence their decisions. Deception isn't one technique among many. It's the foundation of strategic interaction in competitive situations. The modern application isn't about dishonesty in personal relationships, but about recognizing that in competitive contexts, revealing your full capabilities and intentions gives opponents information they can use against you. Strategic ambiguity, misdirection, and controlling information flow are essential skills in business, negotiations, and competitive scenarios. Lesson 62. Hold out baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush him. Creating apparent opportunities lures enemies into vulnerable positions. If they see what appears to be an easy target, their greed or opportunism may override their caution. They attack what seems like weakness, only to discover it was a trap. Appearing disorganized tempts enemies to attack hastily, missing signs that you're actually well prepared. This requires discipline and patience. You must convince opponents that the bait is real, which may require accepting small losses to make the deception believable. But if successful, enemies commit resources to attacks that fail catastrophically, creating opportunities for devastating counterattacks. Lesson 63. If your opponent is of choleric temperament, seek to irritate him. Understanding enemy psychology allows exploitation of emotional weaknesses. If opponents are quick to anger, provoke them into rash decisions. Angry people make mistakes. They abandon careful plans for immediate satisfaction. They overlook dangers in their eagerness to strike back at perceived insults. The principle extends to any psychological vulnerability. If opponents are proud, wound their pride. If they're greedy, tempt them with apparent opportunities. If they're fearful, amplify their fears. If they're confident, encourage overconfidence. Psychology is as important as material factors in determining outcomes. Lesson 64. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. Apparent weakness causes enemies to underestimate you. They prepare inadequately. They commit fewer resources than the situation actually requires. They may even ignore you entirely, allowing you to prepare unopposed. Then, when you reveal actual strength, they're unprepared for the reality they face. This requires ego control. You must be comfortable letting opponents think less of you than reality justifies. Many leaders struggle with this because appearing weak feels like actual weakness. But Sun Tzu understands that perception and reality are different, and manipulating perception creates strategic advantages. Lesson 65. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. Denying enemies time to rest and prepare degrades their effectiveness. Keep them busy, responding to threats. Force them to deal with problems. Maintain pressure that prevents careful planning. Exhaustion leads to mistakes. Constant reaction prevents initiative. In modern competitive contexts, this might mean continuous product releases that keep competitors constantly responding, or legal challenges that consume their resources and attention. The principle is to maintain tempo that keeps opponents off balance and unable to gather themselves for effective counteraction. Lesson 66. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. Surprise creates opportunities by catching enemies without proper defenses in place. When you appear where unexpected, enemy forces are positioned wrongly, their preparations are inadequate, and their responses are confused. The strategic value of surprise is so great that it's worth significant effort to achieve. Maintaining surprise requires operational security. If enemies learn your plans, they can prepare accordingly. If your movements are predictable, they'll anticipate you. True surprise comes from revealing your intentions only at the last possible moment, or from using deceptive signals that mislead about your actual target. Lesson 67. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Psychological victory is superior to military victory. If you can convince enemies that resistance is hopeless, they surrender without fighting. This saves resources, preserves your forces, and often leaves you in a better position than if you'd won through combat. The art is in making your strength so obvious and their positions so hopeless that they recognize the futility of resistance. This requires not just strength, but effective demonstration of strength. Enemies must understand what they face. This might mean displays of capability, demonstrations of resolve, or credible commitments that convince them you'll persist regardless of their resistance. Psychological warfare aims at enemy will, not just capability. Lesson 68. Keep your plans as dark as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Secrecy about intentions preserves the element of surprise. If plans are hidden until the moment of execution, enemies cannot prepare effective counters. Then, when you move, do so with such speed and force that enemies cannot organize effective resistance before you've accomplished your objectives. This combination of secrecy and speed characterizes many successful strategic initiatives. In business, this might look like quietly developing a revolutionary product and then launching with massive marketing before competitors can respond. The key is maintaining operational security during preparation and then executing with decisive force. Lesson 69. Prepared strategists capitalize on disorder. Sun Tzu's philosophy emphasizes that disruption creates openings. When normal patterns break down, when systems fail, when unexpected events occur, some people panic while others see possibilities. Chaos affects different parties differently. Those prepared for disruption can exploit it. Those caught unprepared are overwhelmed by it. The principle isn't about creating chaos for its own sake, but about being ready to capitalize when it emerges. This means maintaining flexibility, keeping resources available for rapid deployment, and developing the psychological resilience to see opportunities in crisis when others see only threats. Lesson 70. If your enemy is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. Different situations require different approaches. When enemies are well prepared everywhere, you need thorough preparation yourself. You won't catch them unprepared, so you must be ready for serious resistance. But when enemies are stronger than you, direct confrontation is foolish. Evasion, delay, and indirect approaches are wiser. This principle rewards strategic flexibility. There's no single approach that works in all situations. Sometimes you must confront directly. Sometimes you must avoid and maneuver. The skill lies in recognizing which situation you face and adjusting your strategy accordingly. Lesson 71. When the enemy's envoys speak in humble terms, but he continues his preparations, he is going to advance. When their language is deceptive, but the enemy pretentiously advances, he is going to retreat. Understanding enemy signals requires looking beyond words to actions and context. Humble language combined with continued military preparations suggests an imminent attack. The humility is designed to lower your guard while they complete preparations. Conversely, aggressive language combined with positioning for retreat suggests they're trying to intimidate you into yielding ground. They're actually preparing to abandon. The principle is to watch what people do more than what they say, and to understand that aggressive or conciliatory language may be the opposite of actual intentions. This applies broadly in negotiations, business dealings, and any competitive interaction where deception is possible. Lesson 72. Balk the enemy's power, but do not provoke him into action. Sometimes the best strategy is to neutralize enemy strength without triggering active conflict. Undermine their advantages, remove their resources, weaken their position. But do this without crossing lines that would force them into battle. The goal is to weaken them while maintaining their hope that confrontation can be avoided. This requires subtlety and patience. Obvious undermining provokes retaliation. Blatant weakening triggers conflict. The art is in gradually eroding enemy position through actions that seem reasonable or defensive rather than aggressive, maintaining deniability while achieving strategic aims. Adaptation and flexibility. Lessons 73 through 84. Lesson 73. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. Sun Tzu repeatedly uses water as a metaphor for strategic adaptability. Water has no permanent form. It conforms to whatever contains it, flows around obstacles, finds the path of least resistance, yet persistently moves toward its destination. This is the ideal for strategic flexibility. Rigid strategies break when they encounter unexpected resistance. Fixed plans fail when circumstances change. Like water, effective strategy adapts to conditions while maintaining direction toward objectives. You don't abandon goals, but you adjust methods based on what you encounter. Lesson 74. In war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike at what is weak. Why fight where enemies are strongest when you can attack where they're weakest? Resources are finite. Energy is limited. Choose battles you can win rather than proving yourself against the toughest opposition. This isn't cowardice, but efficiency. The principle rewards intelligence and reconnaissance. You must know where enemy strength is concentrated and where it's absent. Then you exploit weaknesses rather than testing yourself against strengths. In business, this means competing where you have advantages, rather than challenging rivals at their strongest points. Lesson 75. Convince your enemy that he will gain very little by attacking you. This will diminish his enthusiasm. Making yourself an unattractive target reduces the likelihood of attack. If conquest would be costly and gains minimal, rational enemies look elsewhere. This might involve demonstrating strong defenses, showing limited resources worth seizing, or creating high costs for any attack. The broader principle is about shaping enemy calculations. Make attacks on you seem unprofitable. Make other targets seem more attractive. Influence enemy decision-making by changing the apparent costs and benefits of different actions. This requires understanding enemy motivations and priorities. Lesson 76. Use the normal force to engage. Use the extraordinary to win. Sun Tzu distinguishes between conventional forces that engage the enemy directly and extraordinary forces that strike at unexpected times or places to decide the battle. The normal force occupies enemy attention. The extraordinary force creates the decisive advantage. In modern contexts, this might mean using normal marketing to maintain market presence while launching breakthrough products that change the game. It might mean conducting business as usual while secretly developing capabilities that will revolutionize your operations. The principle is about combining the expected with the unexpected to achieve superior results. Lesson 77. To refrain from intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect order. To refrain from attacking an army drawn up in calm and confident array. This is the art of studying circumstances. Sometimes the wise choice is not to fight. When enemies are well prepared, well organized, and confident, attacking them is dangerous. Their preparation multiplies their strength. Their organization coordinates their response. Their confidence sustains their will. Wait for circumstances to change. Wait for them to become disordered, unprepared, or discouraged. This principle requires patience and the ability to recognize when circumstances favor action and when they favor waiting. Not every opportunity should be seized. Not every challenge should be accepted. Strategic wisdom includes knowing when to decline battle. Lesson 78. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. Sun Tzu praises leaders who focus on actual objectives rather than personal glory or reputation. They advance when advancing serves the goal, regardless of whether this brings recognition. They retreat when retreat is wise, regardless of how this might appear to others. Their ego doesn't interfere with strategic judgment. This remains rare and valuable. Many leaders make decisions based on how they'll appear, rather than what will work. They take actions for the sake of being seen as bold, or avoid necessary retreats because they fear looking weak. The principle calls for subordinating ego to strategy. Lesson 79. On dispersive ground, therefore, fight not. On facile ground, halt not. On contentious ground, attack not. Different types of terrain require different strategies. On ground where your troops can easily scatter toward home, don't risk battle because they might flee. On ground where movement is easy but commitment is low, don't stop because momentum is your advantage. On ground that both sides desire, don't attack hastily because enemies are also motivated and prepared. The principle is about matching strategy to circumstances. Universal rules are rare. Most guidance is contextual. The skilled strategist reads circumstances accurately and adjusts accordingly rather than applying fixed formulas, regardless of conditions. Lesson 80. If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight, even though the ruler forbid it. If fighting will not result in victory, then you must not fight even at the ruler's bidding. Here, Sun Tzu addresses the relationship between strategic judgment and political authority. The commander's duty is to achieve victory, not to obey orders that lead to defeat. If battle will surely succeed, fight even if ordered not to. If battle will surely fail, decline even if ordered to attack. This is radical. It places strategic judgment above obedience to authority. Sun Tzu trusts the commander's assessment of battlefield conditions more than distant rulers' commands. The principle applies in any situation where those with detailed knowledge of conditions have better judgment than those in nominal authority who lack such knowledge. Lesson 81. Know your enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles without disaster. This returns to Sun Tzu's most fundamental principle, now applied to the question of adaptation. Knowing yourself means understanding your capabilities, resources, and limitations as they actually exist in current circumstances, not as you wish they were. Knowing your enemy means understanding their situation as it currently stands, not as it was previously. The principle emphasizes that both forms of knowledge must be current and accurate. Circumstances change. Capabilities evolve. Yesterday's understanding may not apply today. Continuous assessment of both yourself and opponents is necessary for sustained success. Lesson 82. Press momentum when you have the advantage. Sun Tzu emphasizes that success creates momentum. Each advantage gained provides leverage for the next. Resources captured can be used immediately. Positions taken provide bases for further advances. Enemy morale damaged makes subsequent operations easier. The lesson is to press advantages rather than consolidating after each small gain. This requires recognizing when you have momentum and exploiting it vigorously. Many leaders achieve an initial success and then pause to consolidate, giving enemies time to recover. Sun Tzu suggests that when circumstances favor you, press forward aggressively to compound advantages before enemies can adjust. Lesson 83. Move not unless you see an advantage. Strategic patience appears throughout Sun Tzu's teaching. Don't act for action's sake. Don't move because you feel you should be doing something. Don't fight because you're restless. Act when action serves clear purposes. Rest when rest serves your interests. Conserve resources for opportunities that matter. This discipline is difficult because stillness feels passive. Leaders often prefer visible activity, even when it's counterproductive. The principle calls for the maturity to wait, to prepare, to position, and then to move decisively when the moment is right, rather than constantly churning through wasteful activity. Lesson 84. There are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. Strategic flexibility sometimes requires violating normal rules. Some roads lead to traps or disadvantageous terrain. Some armies are too strong or too well positioned to attack profitably. Some towns are too well fortified to be worth besieging. Some positions are more costly to contest than they're worth. Some orders from political authorities would lead to disaster. The principle is that context matters more than rules. Blind adherence to protocols, conventions, or commands is dangerous when circumstances make them inappropriate. Strategic judgment must override standard procedures when situations demand it. Modern applications. Lessons 85 through 96. Lesson 85. In business, as in war, the fundamental principles remain constant. Sun Tzu's insights translate remarkably well to modern competitive contexts. Understanding competitors and your own capabilities, using intelligence to inform decisions, adapting to changing circumstances, choosing which battles to fight, achieving objectives efficiently. These principles apply whether you're launching products, negotiating contracts, or managing organizations. The specific tactics change. Ancient battlefield formations don't apply to modern business, but the strategic thinking, the emphasis on preparation, the value of intelligence, the importance of psychology, these translate directly to contemporary challenges. Lesson 86. In negotiations, appear willing to compromise while maintaining firm positions on core interests. Deception in negotiations isn't about dishonesty, but about managing information and perceptions. Appear flexible on minor points while holding firm on what truly matters. Let opponents win symbolic victories while you secure substantive gains. Create the impression of making concessions while protecting essential interests. This requires knowing the difference between core interests and peripheral issues. Many negotiators fight over everything equally, which signals what they truly value. Better to concede gracefully on things that don't matter, while appearing inflexible on crucial points. Lesson 87. In personal development, know your strengths and focus efforts there, rather than struggling to overcome every weakness. The principle of attacking weakness and avoiding strength applies to self-development. Rather than trying to be good at everything, Develop genuine expertise in areas where you have natural advantages. Mitigate weaknesses enough that they don't derail you, but build exceptional strength where you have potential. This contradicts advice to work on your weaknesses. Sun Tzu would say, find situations where your strengths matter and your weaknesses are less relevant. Build on advantages rather than endlessly struggling against natural limitations. Lesson 88. In athletic competition, study opponents' patterns and exploit their tendencies. Sports competition offers clear applications of Sun Tzu's principles. Scout opponents thoroughly, identify patterns in their play, exploit their weaknesses, disguise your own patterns, create deceptive setups that make them commit to actions you can counter. Adapt your strategy to the specific opponent you face. The best coaches combine thorough preparation based on intelligence about opponents with flexible game plans that adapt to what actually happens. They don't rigidly follow predetermined approaches, but respond to the specific circumstances of each competition. Lesson 89. In organizational leadership, create systems that make success achievable by ordinary people working together. Sun Tzu's emphasis on combined forces rather than individual heroics translates to organizational design. Build processes that coordinate efforts. Develop systems that multiply effectiveness. Create structures that enable ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things through collaboration. This differs from approaches that depend on hiring exceptional individuals or inspiring superhuman effort. While talent and motivation matter, sustainable organizational success comes from effective systems that harness collective capabilities. Lesson 90. In project management, maintain flexibility to adapt plans as circumstances evolve. No plan survives contact with reality unchanged. Projects encounter unexpected obstacles, discover new information, face resource constraints, or find that initial assumptions were wrong. The project manager who rigidly adheres to original plans despite changed circumstances fails. The effective manager adapts while maintaining focus on ultimate objectives. This requires distinguishing between the project's purpose and the specific plan for achieving it. Purposes should remain relatively stable. Plans should adjust as you learn more about what's required and what's possible. Lesson 91. In marketing, position yourself where competitors are weak rather than competing directly against their strengths. Market segmentation and competitive positioning apply Sun Tzu's principle of attacking weakness. Find customer segments that competitors serve poorly. Develop capabilities in areas competitors neglect. Compete on dimensions where you can excel rather than matching rivals at their strongest points. This often means creating new categories rather than fighting in established ones. It means finding underserved niches rather than battling for mainstream markets. It means building unique value propositions rather than trying to do the same things as competitors, but slightly better. Lesson 92. In time management, focus energy on high-value activities rather than trying to do everything. The principle of knowing when to fight and when not to fight applies to how you spend time. Not every task deserves equal effort. Not every opportunity should be pursued. Not every request deserves acceptance. Strategic time management means identifying what truly matters and concentrating there. This requires saying no to many good opportunities to preserve capacity for great ones. It means accepting that some things won't get done so that essential things can be done excellently. It's the difference between busy and productive. Lesson 93. In innovation, combine existing elements in unexpected ways rather than seeking entirely new components. Sun Tzu's principle about combining basic elements to create infinite variations applies to innovation. Most breakthrough innovations combine existing technologies, approaches, or concepts in novel ways rather than inventing entirely new components. The extraordinary comes from unexpected combinations of the normal. This makes innovation more achievable than if you needed entirely original elements for each new creation. Focus less on inventing from scratch and more on recombining what exists in powerful new ways. Lesson 94. In crisis management, use the disruption to seize opportunities while competitors are paralyzed. Crises create chaos that affects different parties differently. Those prepared for disruption can capitalize on opportunities that emerge. Those unprepared are overwhelmed just trying to survive. The principle of finding opportunity in chaos applies directly to organizational responses to market disruptions, technological changes, or environmental shifts. This requires maintaining resources and flexibility to deploy when disruptions occur. It means preparing for multiple scenarios rather than optimizing for a single expected future. It means developing organizational resilience that turns crises into advantages. Lesson 95. In relationship building, understand others' motivations and help them achieve their goals. The principle of understanding the enemy translates to understanding people generally. What do they want? What motivates them? What are they trying to achieve? When you understand these things, you can help people get what they want in ways that also serve your interests. This creates sustainable relationships rather than zero-sum competitions. This isn't manipulation, but genuine understanding applied to mutual benefit. The best relationships serve all parties. The worst relationships are purely extractive. Sun Tzu's emphasis on intelligence gathering supports building genuine understanding of others' perspectives and needs. Lesson 96. In learning, focus on principles that transfer across contexts, rather than memorizing specific techniques. Sun Tzu teaches principles rather than specific tactics, because principles apply broadly while tactics are context-specific. The student who memorizes many tactics for specific situations is less capable than the student who understands underlying principles that generate appropriate tactics for any situation. This suggests focusing education on fundamental understanding rather than surface knowledge. Deep grasp of principles enables adaptation and creativity. Shallow knowledge of many specifics provides little genuine capability when circumstances change. Final lessons and wisdom. Lessons 97 through 100. Lesson 97. The general who thoroughly understands the advantages that accompany variation of tactics knows how to handle his troops. Mastery comes from understanding principles so deeply that you can generate appropriate tactics for any situation. This is different from knowing many tactics. It's about internalizing fundamental strategic thinking until correct responses flow naturally from deep understanding rather than from memorized formulas. This level of expertise takes time and experience. You must encounter many different situations, try various approaches, see what works and what fails, and gradually build genuine understanding that transcends specific instance. There are no shortcuts to this kind of mastery. Lesson 98. The general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple before the battle is fought. Victory comes from thorough preparation. Before any significant action, work through scenarios, consider options, anticipate obstacles, plan responses to contingencies. The time to think through problems is before they occur, not in the chaos of crisis. This principle values preparation over improvisation. While adaptability matters, it works best from a foundation of careful planning. The general who has considered many possibilities before battle responds more effectively when unexpected situations arise, because they've already thought through similar scenarios. Lesson 99. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. Sun Tzu ends where he begins, emphasizing adaptation and flexibility. Success often leads to repetition. What worked before becomes the default approach. But circumstances change, opponents learn, and yesterday's winning formula becomes today's predictable pattern. Continuous adaptation is necessary for sustained success. This means constantly learning, continuously evolving, and never becoming so attached to past successes that you can't abandon approaches when they're no longer optimal. It requires humility to recognize when methods that served you well are becoming obsolete. Lesson 100. Know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. We return to Sun Tzu's foundational insight. Everything else builds from this. Accurate understanding of yourself and your situation. Thorough intelligence about competitors and challenges. These two forms of knowledge, held simultaneously and kept current through continuous learning, create the foundation for sustained success. This final lesson reminds us that the art of war isn't really about war in the narrow sense. It's about strategic thinking applied to any competitive or challenging situation. It's about intelligence over force, preparation over improvisation, adaptation over rigidity, understanding over assumption, efficiency over waste, psychology over pure material factors. Sun Tzu understood that conflict is fundamentally human. It involves perception, emotion, will, intelligence, and creativity as much as resources and capabilities. The highest level of strategy works through these human factors rather than against them. It shapes perception to create advantage. It undermines enemy will to avoid fighting. It uses intelligence to multiply force. It adapts continuously to changing circumstances. These 100 lessons from the art of war form a coherent philosophy, not a collection of random tactics, but an integrated way of thinking about strategy. Master the principles rather than memorizing the specific teachings. Understand the foundations, and you can generate appropriate responses to any situation. Apply the insights flexibly, and you can adapt to changing circumstances. And so we've journeyed through 100 lessons drawn from Sun Tzu's timeless wisdom, from the importance of self-knowledge and intelligence gathering to the value of deception and psychological warfare, from the necessity of adaptation and flexibility to the power of strategic patience and knowing when not to fight, from the art of leadership that inspires loyalty to the science of creating conditions where victory becomes inevitable. These principles have endured for more than 2 millennia because they capture fundamental truths about strategic thinking. They work across cultures because they're based on human psychology. They apply in multiple domains because they're not about specific tactics, but about underlying principles. They remain relevant through changing technologies because they address timeless aspects of competition, conflict, and challenge. As you drift towards sleep tonight, perhaps some of these lessons will settle into your mind. Perhaps you'll find yourself thinking differently about challenges you face. Perhaps you'll see new approaches to old problems. Perhaps you'll recognize the value of preparation, of intelligence, of choosing your battles wisely, and of winning through wisdom, rather than through mere effort. Sun Tzu understood something profound. The best victories are those that preserve rather than destroy. The highest strategy achieves objectives while minimizing cost, damage, and waste. The true master wins without fighting, or fights in ways that make victory swift and sure. This wisdom applies whether you're navigating office politics, building a business, resolving personal conflicts, or simply trying to achieve your goals efficiently. Remember that water flows around obstacles. Remember that knowing yourself and knowing your circumstances creates clarity. Remember that not every battle deserves fighting. Remember that deception isn't about dishonesty, but about strategic information management. Remember that adaptation beats rigidity. Remember that combined forces multiply individual efforts. You are not preparing for literal warfare, but you do navigate a complex world full of challenges, competitions, and conflicts. Sun Tzu's wisdom can guide you to handle these more effectively, not through aggression or dominance, but through intelligence, preparation, and strategic thinking. Not through fighting every battle, but through choosing wisely where to commit your energy. Not through rigid plans, but through flexible adaptation to changing circumstances. The art of war teaches us to think strategically, to look beyond immediate situations toward ultimate objectives, to value efficiency over waste, to prefer intelligence over force, to seek understanding before action, to adapt continuously, to lead with authenticity and discipline, to know when to fight and when to wait, to find opportunities in challenges, to win with wisdom. These lessons don't guarantee success, nothing can, but they provide frameworks for thinking more clearly about strategy. They offer principles that have guided successful leaders across centuries and cultures. They remind us that our minds, properly trained and informed, are our greatest advantages in facing whatever challenges we encounter. So rest now. Let these ideas settle. Let your mind process what resonates. Tomorrow, when you wake, you'll still face the same world with its demands and difficulties, but perhaps you'll approach them with slightly different perspective. Perhaps you'll see options you hadn't noticed before. Perhaps you'll make choices that serve your interests more effectively. Perhaps you'll navigate challenges with greater wisdom. The art of war is ultimately about achieving our objectives as effectively as possible, about minimizing waste and maximizing results, about working smarter rather than just harder, about understanding situations deeply before acting, about adapting our approaches to actual circumstances rather than preferred theories. These are skills worth developing in business, in relationships, in personal growth, in any endeavor worth pursuing. Sun Tzu wrote for military commanders 2,000 years ago, but his wisdom transcends that specific context. It speaks to anyone who faces challenges, anyone who competes, anyone who seeks to achieve difficult objectives in a complex world. May these 100 lessons serve you as they have served countless others across the centuries. Sleep well, dream deeply, and wake tomorrow ready to think strategically about whatever challenges you face. If this exploration of Sun Tzu's timeless wisdom helped you think differently or gave you a peaceful way to end your day, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Whispered Knowledge. It helps others discover these calm journeys through ideas and insights. Thank you for spending this time with me. Good night.